let's start here. The business advice that worked even 3 years ago is dangerously outdated now. We are living through the collapse of an era where online success was driven by visibility, volume, and velocity. If you were loud, fast, and early, you won. You didn't need depth, you didn't need systems, you didn't even need results. You just needed a funnel and a Canva template. But now the internet is growing up and the game is completely different. We are seeing a mass extinction event in online business, but it feels like no one is naming it yet. So coaches, creators, consultants quietly burning out, quietly disappearing, quietly pivoting to agency work because they can't sell anymore. Why? Because the middle of the market is collapsing. AI is commoditizing surface level content. Audiences are way savvier now, and personal brand isn't enough to build trust anymore because it feels like now everyone looks like an expert. So if you've been building your business on charisma, visibility, or momentum alone, I think that it's only a matter of time before that well will run dry. But here's the next opportunity. The next era of founders, they won't be the loudest, they will be the clearest. They will be the ones, in my opinion, who build intellectual property instead of just content. The ones who design systems that actually run their businesses. The ones who protect their energy, think in decades, and operate like CEOs, not just creators. And that's exactly what this episode is about. I'm going to walk you through 5 non-obvious shifts that I believe every single founder needs to make now if you want to stay relevant, respected, and richly compensated in 2030 and beyond. This is not a trend forecast. It is a strategic recalibration for high-performing women who aren't interested in short-term hype. If you are building something with weight, with value, with longevity, let's get into it. Here is what is happening right now that I feel like no one is talking about. The business models that built 7-figure brands in the 2018 to 2021 window, they are breaking. What used to be cutting edge, the freebie nurture course funnel, the personal brand growth hack playbook, the $2,000 course with a pop-up community, you all know what I'm talking about. The group program that has weekly calls and no back-end delivery structure. They are just not working the way that they used to. And yet, most people are still trying to scale those same systems. Still hiring based on outdated org charts. Still building content strategy for an attention economy that no longer exists. Here's why I believe that is failing. 1, AI just commoditized 80% of the industry. Surface level information is now free. Execution level services are now automated, and vibe-based offers can be mimicked in 3 prompts or less. So if your differentiation lives in your templates, your content volume, or your ability to write a good hook, you're now competing with machines. And if your delivery model hasn't evolved to actually deliver discernment, depth, or transformation, it is only a matter of time before your conversion rates start shrinking. 2, audience behavior has matured. Your audience is not dumb. Listen, they've bought the course, they've joined the membership, they've seen the funnel so many times, and now they're starting to ask better questions. They are not just asking, what does it cost and when's the deadline? They are asking, is this really worth it? Will I actually follow through on my purchase? Will this one get me any further than the last one? So if your marketing is just repackaged hype, if your testimonials are feeling really vague, if your program still teaches what's already free now on YouTube or ChatGPT, that is a really short runway. 3, the algorithm does not care how long you've been here. We have moved from a merit-based game to a machine-optimized one. So your content isn't being shown because you've earned credibility. It's being shown because the first 3 seconds hit an engagement metric, which means creators who don't even have an offer are pulling more reach than founders who've built million-dollar businesses solving real problems. So the solution isn't just to play louder. It is to get smarter about how you use content. So building signal, not just visibility, building vaults, not just a reel or a short form video, building trust over time, not just trying to get more reach overnight. Really thinking about those details. 4, launches, let's be honest, are getting noisier. Attention is getting way more expensive. So here's the part people don't say publicly. Even if you're doing everything right, maybe the live launches are starting to feel flatter than before. You might notice that your open rates are dipping. You might be feeling like your audience is actually slower to convert. They're opting for the longer payment plans. You are spending way more to get less traction. And it's not because you're failing or you suck. It's because the model itself is noisier. Everyone's launching, everyone's selling, everyone's optimized. And when everything is urgent and everyone's the best at everything, nothing is. That's why I really believe you need an ecosystem, not just a funnel. So you need recurring value, not just recurring revenue. You need to design a business that isn't dependent on your energy or your calendar to stay alive. So what is the point? I really think the founder who will thrive in 2030 isn't the one who adapts the fastest. It is the one who designs for what doesn't need to be constantly adapted. Really think about that. It means building with more depth, more structure, more clarity, and more discernment, because growth isn't the goal anymore. Just having those quick bursts, sustainability is, longevity is. The game is no longer how fast can I get there? The new game is how do I build something so durable, so valuable, and so distinctive that I'm actually still the one that people trust 5 years from now. And I really think that starts with the 5 shifts I want to walk you through. These are the things that I'd be betting on right now if I was rebuilding from zero, and they're the things that I'm thinking about as a multiple 8-figure founder. So let's get into it. The first shift, the one that separates future-proof founders from high-income freelancers, is going from growth to infrastructure. Because what we're seeing right now is a generation of business owners waking up with big numbers and brittle businesses. So let me tell you what I mean by that, because I think we've probably all seen them on Instagram, right? So they hit the revenue goals, they had the $100,000 month, they've got the testimonials, they've built the audience, but behind the scenes, their team is overcomplicated, their systems are feeling Frankensteined and duct taped together, their energy is completely shot, and so is their nervous system, and it feels like everything still really depends on them. So what they've done is they've scaled the top line, but they've built a machine that needs this constant feeding. And it feels like the moment they stop moving, it all slows down. That is not a sustainable company. That is an energy drain. So let's just get really honest here. Growth now is very cheap. You can buy it. You can fake it. Let's be honest. You can brute force it through launches, through ads or appearances. You can say whatever you want to say online. But infrastructure, that does take discernment. That does take real leadership, because it's not sexy. It's not Instagrammable. It's not the shiny thing. It's that deep, quiet work, right? It's building systems. It's documenting processes. It's managing your team with real leadership. It's mapping delivery flows, redesigning your back-end logic. No one's clapping for it, but it's the reason that you can take a month off and your business doesn't flinch or, God forbid, fall apart. And here's another uncomfortable truth that I think no one's talking about in the coaching world. Most scalable businesses are not scalable. They are just bigger. They have more people, more offers, more platforms, more overhead, but they don't have more margin. They don't really have more clarity. They don't have more peace. Scale, let's talk about what scale actually is. Consistency without the chaos, delivery without that decision fatigue, revenue without all that reactivity, and growth without the tight grip of the founder. And you only get that by investing in the infrastructure that most people skip over because it's boring, it's unsexy, and it doesn't get immediate results. So then what do you actually build if that's the case? Let me just give you some specifics here. The first thing is a delivery engine, not a delivery mess. So a very clear promise, clear milestones, clear rhythm. You should be able to describe your entire client journey in one sentence and hand it off. You really want a system that collects and improves feedback. So your clients are telling you what to fix. Most people just aren't actually listening at scale and paying attention to it. So use forms, looms, AI summaries, whatever it takes. Turn all of that insight into something you can iterate on. You also really want centralized operations. I talked about this a lot, but if you have 5 different tools that don't talk to each other, it's just leaking energy and time and resources and money. So choose like a central operating system, Notion, Airtable, ClickUp, and run your business there from the inside out. You also want to have a hiring filter that is based on systems. Most people hire help instead of building a system. Then what they'll do is burn out managing that team. And I don't think your next hire should replace you. I think it should replace a workflow or you can put AI in charge of doing that so that you're just automating more and more and more. So the reframe here would be, instead of how do I make this bigger, it's how do I make this hold its own weight without me? The infrastructure, the sustainability. And I think that's how you go from being in the business to owning the business. And then in the next 5 to 10 years, I think that's the kind of business that will survive the noise and survive all of the changes that are happening. Then let's move into shift number 2. I think we need to be thinking about moving from static funnels to high converting brand experiences. Now, let me say this very clearly. I still teach funnels. I have programs teaching funnels. I still use funnels. They are absolutely essential. But what I am telling my clients right now is, if your funnel looks like it was pulled from a 2020 template and it's not fun, valuable, or distinctly you, I'm going to guess it's probably not converting as well as it could be, and it's probably causing you a headache. But the funnel isn't necessarily the problem. I really think it's the flatness of how most people build them. So I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You opt into a PDF that tells you everything you already know. You might get dropped into a 5-email sequence full of generic social proof and fake urgency. You might get pitched on a course without ever feeling something real, or like someone cares about you, or someone really understands you. And I really think in a world where people are more distracted, more skeptical, and more tuned into energy than ever before, that doesn't convert. It gets archived, people are unsubscribing, people are not paying attention, they're certainly not clicking. So what I'm working on with my own clients and inside my own business is, how do we make this funnel so different and so elevated? How do we make the process of buying feel like part of the transformation? How do we give people more value before the sale than some people even given the paid programs? Because the truth is, people are already watching you. They're probably already pre-qualified. And so then the question is, are you guiding them through a sales experience that actually builds trust or breaks trust? And that's a lot of what I'm hearing right now. Those really hard pitches without anyone feeling cared about is breaking trust. So I think a 2025 ready funnel probably looks like something that's not louder, not more complicated, but actually is a lot smarter. It is warmer. Believe it or not, in this age of AI, it is more human. So again, here's what I'm telling my clients to do and to focus on. I want you to have one clear offer, but multiple access points. Everyone talks about simplifying, but then they go create 7 different low-ticket products trying to build the top of their funnel. You don't need more products. You need more intentional entry points that lead to the same highly refined transformation. So an example might be a belief shifting email sequence. It might be a short quiz with really tailored, personalized copy. It might be a 15-minute video that acts as a pattern interrupt. It might be a paid workshop that leads to the main offer. So it's the same destination, but different doors based on how someone actually likes to engage. So you're giving them different options. I also think you want to be designing for engagement, not just attention. And this is really big. Like, I'm actively thinking about this in my own business and thinking about how we can apply this. But how do we make every step of the funnel really irresistible to engage with? Not just come and watch the webinar, but feel really seen by it, want to share it, take screenshots, tell friends, not just read the emails, but open the third one because the first 2 were so good. Forward it, save it, highlight it, give it to their ChatGPT as something they can think about. So layering voice notes, screenshots of real coaching, value bombs that double as lead qualification. Really smart use of storytelling and pattern interrupt inside the sequence, because engagement drives conversion, not pressure. And again, in this age of AI, people aren't telling stories anymore. They're just copy and pasting copy. I also think that you could treat the funnel like a mini version of your program. So here's what I tell every client. The funnel is the product until they buy. So if someone doesn't feel the clarity, conviction, and emotional safety in the sales process, listen, they are not going to trust you with their transformation, right? So we really have to ask, what does my ideal buyer need to believe to say yes? What emotional blocks can we be preempting? How do we build trust in motion, not just after the card opens? Because a lot of people save the best for the sale. So yes, I'm talking about removing friction, but I'm talking about layering value, storytelling, and belief building right inside the funnel. And that's what builds a buying experience that people remember and feel really good about being part of. And if they don't feel good about being part of it, they're going to just churn from your list or churn from your audience. Like I've I've said, I don't think the funnel needs to be louder. I think it needs to be clearer. I don't think it needs to be fancier, but it needs to feel more like you, the human. They don't need to be high pressure. They really need to work with how your ideal client makes decisions. And I really think that is the future, especially when it comes to digital marketing. And so the reframe that I really want you to think about is you are not just setting up a funnel. You are designing a branded sales experience that delivers real insight before they buy. It qualifies buyers with resonance, not just scarcity and tactics. It moves people quickly because it feels safe to move. They feel like they are going to be really taken care of. And I think in this world flooded with sales pages that all sound the same, this is what cuts through. Okay, let's move into shift 3. Moving from content creation to thought leadership. Now, listen, this is not groundbreaking, and I'm not here to knock content creation. We still need it. It matters. But let's double down. Here's what I'm telling my clients right now and what I'm also working on in my own business, because I'm paying attention to all the stuff that I'm sharing with you. If you are posting every day, but no one remembers what you stand for, I don't think you have like a content problem. I think you have a leadership problem. And that is not solved with volume. That really is about clarity, right? And that's where a lot of people get stuck. So they will band-aid clarity with volume. The truth is, content is no longer scarce. It is everywhere. AI is flooding every single platform with pretty decent writing. Creators are publishing more than ever before. But attention is shrinking. People do not want more content. They want a source that they can really trust. They want someone whose perspective actually makes them pause and think. They want someone who helps them make sense of what they're feeling, but haven't actually named yet. Someone who says the thing that they've been circling around, but they and their ChatGPT can't quite articulate it. That's not just content. I really believe that is what makes up thought leadership. And if you're wanting to build a personal brand, this is something that I want you to have top of mind. So let's just talk about the difference. I think content creation can be quite reactive. It's, what should I post today, this week? What's trending? Whereas thought leadership is really rooted. It's your lens, it's your frameworks, it's your body of work. And it's less about how often you post and more about what people associate with you when you do. So what I'm really encouraging my clients to get really, really clear on is, what do you want to be known for in 5 years? Like, if you could pick one word, what's the word? Or what truth are you planting your flag in over and over and over again? What is your proprietary lens that reshapes how people think, not just what they do? What's your point of view? Because I think in 2030, the most in-demand brands will not be the ones with the most reach. They will be the ones who've built recognizable resonance. They are not the ones just chasing reach for the sake of it. So inside my own business, here's what I'm building and what I'm really thinking about. I am currently auditing my own content against 3 criteria. So is it helping people make a decision? Does this deepen trust, or does it just perform well? Would someone quote this back to me a year from now? So I am really, really thinking about quality over quantity. I'm thinking about resonance over reach. And we are building a content vault, not a content treadmill. What I feel like that means is evergreen core pieces of content that define our belief system as a business. Sharp, original IP that shows how we think and what our point of view is. Case studies and story-based teaching that anchors credibility in emotion that people can really see themselves in and relate to. And then we've also really started to shift how we're measuring success. So it's not just likes or comments, it's, are we creating buying behavior? Are we shortening the sales cycle with our content? Are we pre-qualifying people through the perspectives that we're sharing that they can either relate to or repel from? Because I would rather post 3 times a month and convert leaders than post daily and stay stuck chasing engagement with no conversion or just getting followers for the sake of it. And so if you are stuck in that cycle of content, maybe the reframe that you need is, now content doesn't build businesses. Clarity builds businesses. Content just delivers it. And if you want to become the voice your people come back to when they're ready to move, you do not need to be saying more. You need to say what only you can say, and say it so clearly that they remember it when they are scrolling so quickly past 100 other people. And then let's move into shift 4, moving beyond personal brand to proprietary intellectual property. And again, We're not throwing out the personal brand. It is still one of the fastest ways to build trust, and I think it's only going to continue to grow. But the problem that I see with a lot of personal brand businesses right now is they are built around personality and not assets. They generally will be working as long as the founder is posting. They sell as long as the founder is on. They convert as long as the founder is doing the convincing. That's not freedom. That creates a business that is dependent on visibility instead of driven by assets. And I think this becomes even more dangerous as AI levels the playing field. Because if your product looks like someone else's and your delivery sounds like everyone else's, and the only difference is you, that is not scalable. That is a high cost business with no valuation. So what I'm working on with my clients right now is asking, what do you own that no one else can replicate? What would still work in your business if you took a month off social media? If someone else was to teach your method, would the transformation still hold? Because those are IP questions. And I think the future, it's not about having a brand that's visible. It's about having assets that are really defensible, that are really, really valuable, that really differentiate you. So let's talk about what counts as proprietary IP. And let's define it, because I think this gets confused really often. It is not just a framework with a cute acronym. It is not a diagram in Canva. It is not the vibe you give in your Instagram captions, right? Although, listen, love all of those things. Real IP is a repeatable, documented method for getting results. It's a visual or a verbal model that simplifies decision making, a lens that your industry starts using even if they don't credit you, a concept that gets adopted inside and outside of your ecosystem, right? So hopefully that's starting to get your wheels turning, maybe about other IP you recognize. If someone can't describe how your process is any different from a competitor's, then you don't have proprietary IP. You have brand familiarity. And I just don't think that is enough in a market that is compressing. So inside my own business, again, bringing it back, here's what I'm focused on. We are pressure testing all of our signature methods. Are they documented? Are they teachable without me in the room? Can they be licensed, certified, or embedded into other platforms? Because the more you can transfer your insight into systems, frameworks, and deliverables that don't require your personality to carry them, the more scalable and sellable your business becomes. And I think that's how you increase margin and valuation. That's how you can start to think like a company and not just a content creator. So I'm really working with people on letting them know your ability to get people results isn't enough. I do think you need to codify how you do it. If you want to train a team, license your content, or scale delivery, IP is probably the precondition. And the earlier you build your intellectual infrastructure, the easier it becomes to build leverage, which is beyond your time and your energy. Because a founder without that intellectual property is probably a founder who will eventually plateau no matter how strong their brand is, just because of how fast moving everything is right now and how much things are changing. So I think the shift is personal brand creates visibility. Great. Proprietary IP creates value. And then in 2030, the founders with value, they'll have options. Maybe they're able to license, to exit, scale, or step back because their business isn't just tied to their face or their feed. It's built on thinking that has been packaged, proven, and productized. And that's the difference between being the brand and building one. You know, we are licensing our brand now nationwide. And then the final shift is one that determines how long you'll last. From CEO and doer to CEO and architect. Because let's be real, a lot of people calling themselves CEOs right now, they're not leading companies. They are managing to-do lists with much better branding. They've built teams, yes. They have hit revenue goals, yes. But they are still the decision maker and bottleneck for absolutely everything. Still delivering everything, still the system in the system, which means they are operating like an employee with way more stress. And I just don't think that is sustainable. What I am seeing in a lot of high income businesses behind the scenes that I get a chance to look at is CEOs running $1 million businesses with no documented delivery process, or every new hire is being trained directly by the founder because they have the belief that no one else can do it like them, or projects are getting done, but only when the founder is pushing them forward. Maybe the founder goes on vacation and the Slack channel goes completely dead. And I just don't think that's leverage. I think that's dependence, and I think dependence is really fragile. So here's the real distinction. A doer solves problems. An architect build systems that prevent the problem from happening again. And the longer you stay in doer mode, even if you're amazing at it, the more you stunt the actual scalability of your business, because doing gets you growth. But architecture is what gives you margin, resilience, and eventually freedom. And I know that's why you're here. So what does architecture look like? Let's make it really tangible. So you stop hiring for capacity and you start hiring for ownership. Most founders bring people in to take tasks off their plate. Architects are doing that, but also bringing people in to own the outcome of those tasks. And they define success clearly enough that it can be repeated without them being involved. You would also be building a business that runs on rhythm, not reaction. So doers are living in urgency. Architects are living in cadence. So that's weekly reviews. It's documented SOPs. It's having decision-making protocols, roles that are clearly defined and don't overlap with one another, time blocks that protect strategy time. And I get it. None of this is sexy, but it is what turns chaos into machine that runs with or without you. And I think that's important. And then another change is I think you shift from driving growth to managing energy. And I don't mean that in the fluffy sense, because when you're the architect, your job isn't to do all the work. It is to design the environment that makes the high level execution possible. You set the vision, you define the constraints, you protect the quality, and you create the structure that keeps people moving without your presence being required in all of the details. So again, based on this, what I'm talking to you about is, here's what I'm doing in my own business right now. So we're simplifying roles so that there's no gray space between who owns what. We are documenting a lot of delivery logic, so anyone on the team could run a cohort without me if need be. We are pressure testing delegation, not just by offloading tasks, but by measuring output without my involvement. We are building a machine that amplifies my leadership, but it doesn't just depend on it. And that's been really important for me as I am planning to take a maternity leave. And I will be honest, this requires a deeper level of self-trust. I think you really have to learn how to let go of being needed. You have to shift from proving your value to designing systems that actually deliver value. You have to step into the identity of the person who doesn't just create results, but who builds the infrastructure that creates results at scale. What I tell a lot of my clients is, if your business still needs you for absolutely everything, it is not ready to grow. It is barely surviving. You probably don't want growth in this kind of arena. And I don't think the real win is like a quick $100,000 month. I think it's being able to step out for 3 weeks and come back to revenue, results, and retention that didn't dip once. That is not luck. That is architecture. And that's the difference. So the final shift that I want to leave you with is, you are not here to scale chaos. You are here to design leverage. And so I think your new job is not to do more, but to really think about building better. I think the founder who still needs to show up for absolutely everything will always be a freelancer, no matter how much money they're making. But the founder who is building with clarity, constraint, and systems that create value without their constant presence, that's the founder who I think is going to thrive in 2030 and beyond. So just zooming out for a moment, we've walked through the 5 shifts that I really believe will define the founders who not only survive the next era, but lead it. So let's just recap those really quickly. So going from growth to infrastructure, because revenue without rhythm is just a really expensive chaos. Going from funnels to high converting brand experiences, because I just don't think people want to be pushed through a system anymore. They want to feel seen and they want to feel moved to act. It's going from content creation to thought leadership, because being remembered for something real is infinitely more valuable than just being seen all the time. It's going from personal brand to proprietary IP, because your ideas need to work when you're not in the room. And going from doer to architect, because the real flex, in my opinion, is stepping out without the business completely falling apart. And the truth that I really want to land, you do not need to burn it all down. You do not need to scrap your funnels, your team, your content, your systems. But you do need to elevate the way that you think. Because the founders who are still operating off 5-year-old advice, I think they're already seeing the cracks. I think their launches aren't converting the way they used to. The audience isn't engaging the way they used to. The model just isn't holding up. And their nervous systems are really maxed out. And if that's you, it is not your fault. But it is our responsibility as founders to evolve. So I really think that the founders in 2030, the ones who will thrive, they aren't the loudest, they are the clearest. They are the ones who simplify by design, who build systems with precision, who scale results, not just revenue. They are not playing the short game. They are not building for applause. They are building infrastructure, assets, and identity-driven ecosystems that create margin, trust, and time. And they're asking better questions. What becomes easier as we grow? How do we build for depth, not just distribution? What will make this still feel aligned and alive for me 5 years from now? Because we are not here to scale noise. Like I said, we're not here to scale more chaos. We are really here to scale signal, and that signal will last. So here is my invitation to you. If you are building for what's next, build like you mean it. Build like you want to stay here. Refine your model, really own your message, protect your energy, lead like the CEO of something that deserves to exist for the long haul. And if you want help doing that, stick around. Everything that I'm going to be sharing moving forward on this podcast, in my programs, behind the paywall, is really designed for the founder in 2030. I want to be really thinking ahead. The founders who aren't afraid to be thinking deeply, to be building differently, to be leading better, and to create something that actually earns the word legacy in a way that is freedom-based, because you do not have to give your entire life to build a business that supports your life. So if you're in, please make sure you're subscribed across all of the platforms. I will link them below. There is so much good content coming your way. I hope you loved this one, and I'll see you in the next episode.